when we're ready.
Whenever you want to start.
All right, so I appreciate coming to Collaborative Planning today. I want to do a few things. First, I just want to commend your team. The one thing that I saw today that, I've seen growth over the last few years is the level of collaboration with your team. You and I used to talk about narrowing the focus. So today I really saw a narrow focus in collaborative planning, particularly around student writing while you guys were examining student work. So I want to commend you on that. The next piece I want to bring to your attention, just so these things get on the forefront, the whole piece is around valid, right? So we know some of the core competencies, the strategies, one, quality instruction, particularly around planning and implementing. I saw evidence of planning today, and then we'll talk about implementation a little later today in our conversation. The other piece was rigorous curriculum planning. I saw evidence of that today as you brought the team together to really drill down around some of the things that we saw in student work. And then we'll circle back to talk about what implementation looks like, as well as what would monitoring look like from you and your team. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. So, anything that you want to say about your team, about what you saw, about their growth, anything that you want to add to that? About their growth, anything that you want to add to that?
So just to give you a little bit of background, part of the team, I would say about half of the team is brand new.
Yeah.
They're brand new to teaching, and I have 2 resident teachers on the team as well. So working with them to help grow them as it relates to teaching practices is one of the things that I really do pride myself in making sure that they get exactly what they need and deliver the instruction, to make a meaningful impact to the students.
Yeah.
So that's one of the pieces. The other piece is really around how the team began to have a discussion. They were really discussing the content. It used to be like pulling teeth, at collaborative planning,
Right.
where I was doing all of the talking.
Yeah.
But now they're really, really becoming more engaged
Sure.
in talking about their processes for instructing the students for whatever the content area is.
Why do you think that happened?
I think it's my level of questioning to them, and I think it's also the way in which I engage them now.
Okay.
I engage them also through videos, and they discuss the video. And they did start off about what they liked about it and what they don't like about it.
Right.
But we moved from that to really connecting their practices to what they actually saw.
So when you talk about what you do now, particularly around the level of questioning and how you engage them, what did that look like before?
It used to be, I would say, more so what I saw and what I heard and what I wondered. And then, so that's what we're training. So I use that.
So did you just tell them?
And they just listened, and they just really just took what I told them to do.
Yeah. All right.
So, but now it's more about engaging them in their thinking around the why.
Engaging around the why.
Engaging around the why.
That's a good.
Why did they present the
Yesterday,
information?
I heard a lot of conversation around the rubric that you guys were using, standard-based writing rubric. I know that you guys did an analysis of 2 grade 2 writing samples from students. One was a 1, one was a 4. You guys were looking at the differences. But I want to know, what did you want to accomplish during collaborative planning? What is it that you really were shooting for yesterday?
So, it was a couple of pieces, right? So it's really hard to kind of narrow the focus all the way down. What I wanted teachers to see was the expectation for what a level 4 looks like in writing.
Okay.
And so I bought that piece of student work from the Writing Fundamentals exemplars.
Okay.
And I wanted them to engage in looking at that, identifying what they saw, identifying the structure of what they saw, as well as the convention, all of those pieces in the writing. I never gave them a rubric or anything initially, because I wanted them to I wanted to hear what they, I wanted them to articulate exactly what they saw.
Okay.
And after that, So they were blown away. They were like, wow, you know, this is first grade, this is second grade,
Sure.
this is what they need to do.
Sure.
Yes. I also wanted them to have them to bring in a sample of a level 4 from their classroom. And it wasn't that I wanted them to compare the two, but I wanted them to see the differences. So, first, I wanted teachers to be aware of what a level 4 exemplar really looks like. Secondly, I wanted teachers to understand the level of rigor that they may or may not be requiring of the students in terms of for their writing. And then 3, I wanted teachers, because we did at the end pull out a tool that they could use to monitor and to teach our kids how to write better. I wanted them to look at the tools that they were using to see if it presented itself in such a way that it created that level of rigor that we want the students to get to.
All right, let me repeat this back to you, just to make sure I heard correctly what you're trying to tell me. First of all, you want them to understand or be aware of what the expectations are
Yes.
for level 4 writing, which is exceeds the standard, right? You gave me some more pieces around, you know, you want them to do an analysis of writing, be able to identify the different pieces, really what it looks like. That's the bottom line.
Right.
The next piece is that you wanted them to also see a sample wanted to look at a sample from their classroom that they deem a level 4.
Yes.
Right? But one thing that intrigued me was that you didn't necessarily want them to compare, but you wanted to see the differences. What does writing look like consistent with the standard?
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm at the part where it says folders contain past writing fundamental exemplars. Okay? The first thing that you guys did was looked at a level 4. Remember, you had teachers to look at this prior to looking at the rubric.
Right.
All right? I want you to look at what they said about the rubric. I'm sorry, about the writing sample. What did they say?
They said that they saw that the writing was organized, that the pictures matched the words, that the mechanics of writing were clear,
Okay.
complete thoughts, and the story was sequenced.
Okay.
Just to name a few.
Okay. So I saw the same, I mean, this is what's there. And what did you see for level 1?
For the level 1, the writing was not organized. There were multiple thoughts.
Okay.
So the thinking was scattered for the
Okay.
student writing.
Okay.
The student went off topic,
Okay.
and the conventions were not present.
Okay, so writing wasn't cohesive. That was one of the main things. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to keep going though. There's
Okay.
some other things that I want you to kind of pay attention to.
All right, so the drawing did not connect to the writing.
Okay.
The purpose of the drawing is to assist with the writing. That was one of the epiphanies.
Okay.
In the past, it was identified that kindergarten work had pictures that lacked the details, and we had been working
Okay.
on that
Okay.
previously.
Okay.
When grading details, conventions, and we needed to set a clear expectation at the beginning.
Okay.
So we did come back to that.
So I want you to do something. I want you to take out your rubric for grade 2. Standard-based writing rubric, I think is, yes, right.
Okay.
All right. I think we should go through what your team said is a level 4. And I think we should actually put some tick marks or tally marks here. Because what I want to be able to do is kind of narrow the scope around what our next steps will be with the team, right? I want to do tick marks for level 4 as well as what a level 1 response will look like. But I will also add that your introductory sentence will also add to the structure and organization.
I can
So
see that.
we got another tick mark. So if we were to go through the elements right now and the number of responses we receive from teachers, which one has the most energy from the conversation that was held with teachers? Which one is that?
Details that develop central ideas. So let me purpose and meaning.
Okay. The drawing does not connect to the writing. That whole piece around that
Oh,
picture
yeah.
thing, I'm
Where's
just
that?
killing me. So it can
Yeah.
it can be the same thing.
Okay.
As far as purpose and meaning, and in the past it was identified that Kurt's had pictures, the same thing. But the other piece that just came up again, is grading and details. Right? Where it says when grading details, grade details, when grading conventions, grade conventions, set clear expectations at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's the whole purpose and meaning piece that I remember hearing in that whole conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to recap now, we look at the evidence from the writing sample number 4, which is exceeds,
Mm-hmm.
and also the writing for 1 needs direct support. Which one has the most tick marks?
I didn't take tick marks.
I
for the
did.
first one. I did it for 4, but I didn't do it for 1.
Cool.
For 1.
It's okay.
So
Structure and organization
structure and organization
was actually number 1.
okay.
And number 2 was purpose and meaning.
Okay.
All right. It's
Yeah.
number 2. So I want to capture that in our notes here. What is it that you want teachers to be able to do as a result of this conversation?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want teachers to be able to do, so I can kind of understand?
What do I want teachers to be able to do to help the students
Yeah.
with their writing?
Yeah.
I want teachers to be able to have students to get their thoughts together and organized and to transpose them onto paper effectively, based on whatever the task is. So whether it's personal narrative, whether it's informational, I want them to be able to think that process through and to transpose it to paper for the reader.
So if you had to, let's say, identify a problem right now,
Mm-hmm.
based on, would it be based on the rubrics? I'm sorry, based on the writing samples today,
Mm-hmm.
or would it be based on the writing that they brought to the table?
So the writing that they brought to the table today, it's not the first time.
Okay.
They brought this conversation or this collaborative planning came about
Okay.
as a result of the previous collaborative planning where they had to bring student writing samples. So it's a combination of writing samples over the last month, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a conversation that has been taking place over time.
Okay.
And that's what prompted me to begin to think about perhaps maybe they don't know what a 4 actually looks like or where we're trying to go.
So you
And
brought
that's
the
why-
so you brought the rubric to the table so that they can begin the process of aligning instruction
Yes.
and expectation.
Yes.
All right.
So they can get the expectation and begin to align their teaching practices with the rubrics.
Okay. So if we think about another opportunity with the team,
Mm-hmm.
do you think they need to go through the same type of activity with their own writing samples to see if organization and structure is a concern, purpose and meaning, or how do you think you should proceed?
So they did go through their own
They did?
samples. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have gone through that and they kind of looked at both
Okay.
and saw where the students here were lacking
Okay.
in reaching that 4.
Okay.
But the main thing that I wanted teachers to get to was how do my teaching practices inform the writing that the students produce? And so that's where I am now in really trying to get teachers to understand or to craft their pedagogy around making sure that students are able to produce writing at the level 4.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, and make sure you tell me if I'm not correct, the problem for teachers that you want to push through now is how do we get teachers to create learning experiences where students can start to organize their thoughts prior to writing?
Right.
Is that it?
Well, organize their thoughts and get it on the paper.
Say it so that it means something to you, because you're going to go back and do this, not me.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're trying to get teachers to do? What is the problem?
The problem is that teachers should work on focusing their instructional practices to push students to write at the level 4. And we can
I'm
hone that.
so we know that's the big idea.
Yeah.
But I also heard you say two things, that you want students to get their thoughts organized. Organization, because we see that organization and structure is the main thing when we looked at the rubric, right?
Right.
The next piece is thinking through the process, right? I heard those two things. How would you attack that? I guess that's my question first.
So I think the teachers, we need to plan a process for how we want to model the thinking. So how are they going to model how students should think?
Okay. So,
You know, to convey their writing.
I'm with
To
you.
meet their writing.
I'm with you. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you want to focus on the planning aspect now as an action step,
Yes.
so that we can get teachers to help students to start thinking through
Yes.
the process.
Yes.
All right. So I want you to go to your valid,
Okay.
and we talked about the areas that we wanted to focus on, right? And I want you to go to rigorous curriculum,
Okay.
implementing. And it says for implementing, what does it say? You read it to me.
Engages people, ideas, and resources to put into practice the activities necessary to realize high standards for student performance.
Very good. What does the first one say?
Creates rigorous sequences of learning experiences and courses.
Good. So I heard you say that you want to plan a process to model the thinking for teachers.
Yes.
So they can replicate with their students.
Right.
All right. Now I also want you to turn the page and let's go to the next piece is around, I got to make sure I find it first and I apologize. Quality instruction as far as planning.
Quality instruction.
Right. Planning. I think it's on the last page.
Okay.
All right. It says, what does it say for planning? Articulates.
Articulate shared direction and coherent policies, practices, and procedures for realizing high standards of student performance.
Okay. The first one reads what?
Plans opportunities for teachers to improve their instruction through observing each other's instructional practices.
That's one.
Develops plans to improve instruction in all classes.
Okay.
And plans opportunities for teachers to improve their instruction through personal development.
Professional development.
Professional development.
Right. I want you to focus on this third bullet.
Okay?
On this third bullet. That third bullet says plans opportunities for teachers to improve their instruction through professional development.
Okay.
Right? You said that you want to help them plan the process for modeling thinking.
Yes.
I would also add thinking and organization.
Okay.
Okay? I think that's an action step that you can take to your next meeting. However, you have to have some resources
Okay.
in the building to support you with helping teachers with that, right? So I want you to think about who on the team could support your teachers around helping them plan the process of modeling thinking and organization. Who could do that?
My reading specialist.
Reading specialist. Tell me her name again.
Miss Boyd.
Ms. Boyd. Mr. Cuffs lady. Ms. Boyd, AP, Laura Carr. Okay? So let's now just kind of play with it a little bit.
Okay.
All right? So we just had this meeting, and you're bringing Ms. Boyd and Ms. Carr in for a conversation.
Okay.
I want you to think about me as being them.
Okay.
What are you saying to me?
And it's just the team that's going to be presenting, right?
Just us three.
So,
I'm two people. You're the principal.
right.
I want to know how would you open up this conversation with Laura and Ms. Boyd?
They were at the collaborative planning meeting, and they were engaged in the conversation as well, and they heard everything at the table. I would just get from them, check the pulse on what they saw and what they heard at the meeting, and in terms of where do we need to go, what their thinking is around where we need to go next.
So you say you want to check the pulse.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to invite them into the conversation. Right? how would you open up the conversation with them? Take a minute before you answer the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So right now, I want you to think about the question that you would engage them around as far as the pulse. So you know, in the agenda, you have the invitational inquiry stems in here. You can use any resource that you want.
Given the work that teachers, given the conversation that we had last week around student writing at the primary level, what generalizations would you all surmise from the student work? So the invitation is given the cognition would be generalized, and the topic would be student work at the primary level.
Like that. Let's ask one more question just to make sure we got this together.
Okay.
I want you to start with the invitation around reflecting.
Mm-hmm. Reflecting on our collaborative planning session, summarize what you heard is not on here.
You can say that.
Summarize what you heard.
Okay.
Because I think the piece for me, in terms of my leaders in the building,
I get it.
I don't want to give them the answer.
Right.
So I want them to come to the table and, like you said, invite them and they're thinking about what they walked away with. I don't want what I walked away with from the collaborative planning session to be the end-all be-all.
Right.
I want to hear what they surmised from the session as well.
So reflecting on collaborative planning, what were some of your key takeaways?
Okay.
That could be a question.
Okay.
So you've come up with 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have some choice, as far as how you invite the team into the conversation. So that's good practice there. So the second piece that I would like to ask you is, you and I just did an activity together.
Okay.
Right? Where we actually went through the conversation from your notes,
Mm-hmm.
and then we matched it up to the rubric.
Right.
Do you see that as a beneficial opportunity? How do you see that as an opportunity to engage them in further conversation about what you want them to do around the big idea?
So I think that would be a great way to get them to see what was said, right? So a lot of times we hear what was said, but when we see what was said in writing and we do it in the manner in which you did it with me earlier, I think it would be most beneficial.
So what were we able to do today? I mean, when we went through this today, what were you able to do?
I was able to see my teachers thinking based off of the notes, right? Because that was their thinking. And I was able to compare it to where I want them to go with the writing, with the level 4.
Okay.
And we were able to see where they were heaviest in terms of what was most important.
So the other thing I want you to think about, as you look at data, this is a source of data.
Mm-hmm.
This provides you with some evidence
Mm-hmm.
around the conversation that you had today, right? So this is just another evidence point that when you sit with your team, you say, hey guys, we actually went through your responses.
Yeah.
Okay, you're sitting with your admin team. Hey, I want to take you through this exercise. Let's just see where there's a lot of energy around what teachers saw for level 4. That made an example level 4.
Mm-hmm.
But also let's see where the energy was or why students were getting level 1s, what is needed. And then being able to, as you would say before, close the gap, right? So this is an opportunity to close the gap. So what I'm hearing so far, as what we're practicing, we practice one thing, you want to check the pulse, so you've created questions. The next piece of it is you want to replicate the activity that we went through today with your team, right? And then what would the next piece be as far as preparing for meeting with your staff? Remember, I want you to focus on the pieces around including their ideas. So what would you want to do next after doing those 2 things, so that you can really give teachers that professional development that I'm hearing to support them around modeling thinking, modeling organization? What would be some of the things that you want to do next?
So we're talking about the teachers, right? Not the admin team.
let me ask the question
Okay.
back. I need to ask the question right. How would you get your team's input around the development of the session?
Mhm.
Or
I
the
would-
content of the session, that's it.
I would ask them, after taking them through the exercise, I would ask them, what do they think the next step should be? And that would get the buy-in pieces. Also, it will also give me an idea of their level of knowledge and access to the resources that they have that I might not have.
Okay. So you're gonna ask the question around, what do you think the next step should be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I have 3 things here as far as that piece. I would like to
I think I want to go back.
go back.
So I do want to find out what they think the next steps should be, but I also want them to identify what the problem is, what they see as a problem.
So you've identified a problem, but you want them to do the same.
Yeah, I want them to see if we're on the same page with the problem.
See how we move forward with that,
Okay.
Why is that all
And
right?
it's
I appreciate your time.
all right.
And
Thank you.
you have your next steps, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you
All right.
Reflecting on this feedback session, what were some of your key takeaways?
for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You want to record it?
Yeah, I'm recording now.
Oh,
But don't worry
okay.
about it. Just be
You
natural.
Okay.
talking to me or here?
Both of you.